Hi, my name's Laura and I'm a Reiki Master in Scotland. I'm making this video to share my story about when I had a Kundalini awakening through Reiki. So it happened a couple of years ago, and at the time I was just a client of Reiki. I had been going to Reiki on and off for about 3 years before this happened. And then one December, it was my birthday coming up in April, and I wanted to make some New Year's resolutions to have better mental and physical health. And one of the things that I wanted to do was go to Reiki more regularly. And so I had written down this intention. It was something I really wanted to try. Really like go to the gym and do some really healthy eating, things like that. And so in January, I did start going to Reiki regularly. And my awakening unfolded across 3 separate sessions. And the first one in January, I could tell something was different already. So it was very intense. I got lots of body twitching, energy moving up, bright white light beneath my eyes. And I knew something felt different. And I specifically felt energy come from my hara, which is your lower abdomen. And in Japan, that's where they believe that your spirit energy is. And so that makes sense that it would come from that area. Now, I don't come from a spiritual background. Yes, I was going to Reiki, but I was going to Reiki due to like work stress and just relaxation. And I do believe in synchronicities and coincidences and things like happen for a reason. But I don't come from a religious background or spiritual background, so for me, this was what on earth is happening. And after that session, I had what's known as a healing crisis, which is when you release a lot of trapped emotions and energy through Reiki. It can cause things like cold symptoms, flu symptoms, a lot of emotion coming out. And for me, it came out as emotions. I couldn't stop crying for about 1.5 weeks. And also, I kept zoning out. It was like I was a zombie. Like I would just stare into space, no thoughts, nothing. Just zoned out. I was like, what is happening to me? Why can't I stop crying? Why am I zoning out like this? I also started to get more synchronicities, especially with numbers like 111333 and names as well, specifically my Reiki practitioner's name. And I searched, about like Reiki, can Reiki cause this? Because I didn't know about a healing crisis at the time. And that's when I learned the term and matched everything that I was going through. And then I went from another Reiki session. I was a bit nervous. I went sooner than planned because I wanted to talk about what had happened to me. And I did end up having Reiki again on that day, and it was even more like intense. So I felt the energy going from my neck to my abdomen over and over and over. And it just felt like it went on for like 10 minutes. And after that, like things got very strange. I had this really vivid dream where there was like a creature, I can't remember like what animal it was, and it said very, very clearly, open your eyes. And I literally opened my eyes immediately in real life and was looking around me like, oh, there must be something happening that's made my body do that. And there was nothing. And now I look back at it, I'm realizing it wasn't like open your eyes, there's danger. I think it was saying open your eyes, like as in like spiritually. And shortly after that, I noticed people were being nicer to me out in the street, which, I'm quite an approachable person, but in Edinburgh, which is where I'm from, people don't necessarily talk to you at bus stops or in like queues for things, but they were. And I was like, what's going on? It actually stood out to me. And then I had been sitting at my desk, working from home, and I was listening to some music when I felt this like pressure going down my left arm into my hand, which it was like I just knew. I was like, this is energy moving down my arm. And I was like, I didn't feel scared, but I was like, I didn't know I could do that. And I remember trying again, and I started to get a headache because I was thinking about it too much. But this was me actually having a spontaneous Reiki attunement at the same time as the Kundalini activation. And I again contacted my Reiki practitioner. I says, look, this has happened. And he's like, I think you're having a real spiritual awakening. And like, I was very confused. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't feel the energy move down my arm again until the next session. So a couple of weeks later, I went back for another Reiki session. And this time, that was it. This was the full Kundalini awakening happening. I felt pressure in my heart, and then it was like coming up into my third eye, and I got this breathing, which I've continued to do now, which is like that, like shivering or like hyperventilating up. And every time that breath happened, the brightest white light you could ever imagine was behind my eyelids. And this went on and on and on. And this time, though, when I got home, usually like symptoms, like sensations that happen during Reiki, they disappear after Reiki. You'll feel them during the session, but not when you get home. And this continued. I continued to have this breathing, and this light just appeared like several times a day, like multiple, like maybe 20 times a day for the first few months. And it would just happen. I couldn't control it. Luckily, it didn't tend to happen outside, but when I was relaxed, especially in the morning or in the evening when I was relaxing, getting ready for bed, and it just evolved from there. My hands became so clammy, and I've got really cold hands. They were clammy for at least a week straight, and I was like, what's going on? Like, I kept rubbing them, and nothing would make the clammy feeling go away. And they were tingling, and there was like heat coming from them, and I felt this heat in my chest and my heart, and it was just really, really hot and like tingling. And I would wake up during the night, like my whole body like vibrating, it just full of like buzzing energy. And I would have lots of vivid dreams, which I'll maybe go into in another video. So many vivid dreams, and like I would wake up, and I still do ever since, in the middle of the night, and start to have like all these thoughts. It was like downloads of information and ideas of things to search and learn about. And yeah, it was intense. I searched about what it was, and that's when I came across the term Kundalini, and it's the only word that I can find that describes what happened to me, because I have all the same symptoms. The only difference is it wasn't from the base of the spine. It felt like it came from the hara, which is your lower abdomen. Which, I mean, technically they are kind of in the same area. So, um, the the thing that I've noticed then is in Reiki we have some people do use the seven main chakras, but also originally in Japan they used the three diamonds with Reiki, which is your hara, your heart, and your third eye. And it was those three areas that activated for me when I had my awakening. And so this happened across, like I was saying, a couple of years, and it started off amazing. Like, I saw myself in the third person as well, and it was like I started referring to myself as Laura, and like I had so much love for Laura, for myself, and it was incredible. And that unfortunately didn't last so long. It only lasted about a week or so. And then I also felt closer to my spirit guides. Like, I don't see them yet, and I don't know their names yet, but like sometimes I can hear as if I'm talking to them, and I get a quick answer back. Um, and I really, really like that part of it. I hope one day I can connect with them a little bit more. So that was the first part of it, and it's like you do have like such strong intuition, and you feel like this is it. Life is amazing, and you feel so alive. But it does change, and after like maybe 5-6 months, it does start to turn into when you hear about people having dark nights of the soul, things like that, ego death. You don't lose your ego. You can never lose your ego. That's what keeps you alive. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't know to keep yourself safe. Um, but it does seem to burn away the things that are not good for you. So things like if you are a compulsive shopper, or your job's not good for you, or you're in a relationship that's maybe not the best, it's like it makes things not tolerable. So anything that's not good for you, you can literally no longer tolerate it until you give up. And any bad habits that you use to distract yourself and things, gone. And so it can take months and years to come to terms with this and like learn to live this new version of yourself. And ultimately, it's a good thing because you do want to be happier and more content and true to yourself without having to rely on things that aren't good for you. But it is really difficult, like really difficult. And I was lucky, I had a CBT therapist that I'd had for 4 years. Um, that I had decided to keep on because I'd been ill at one point and I just decided to keep her on, and because I just like talking to her, and she completely understood and listened to me and didn't judge, and she helped keep me sane, like that I'm not losing my mind or psychotic or something. And she, yeah, made me realize that I'm this is real. And she really supported me. I also had my parents were completely understanding. My friends have been really supportive, and my husband as well. And like I'm so grateful to have all these people around me, including my Reiki practitioner as well, who have supported me on this journey. I mean, I can't talk openly about all the spiritual stuff with friends and family. They listen, but like it is lonely, a lonely experience because you don't have anyone who has experienced it as well, unless you reach out and find someone who has. But it's also about being careful about who you are connecting with when you're in the state, because it can be quite vulnerable. And people who are going through it in the early stages, there's a lot of trauma that they're going through, or things that they need to work on. And so I distance myself at that point to focus on myself and to ground myself and to build myself back to where I want to be in a healthier position. And that's where I am today. And also, I went and did my full Reiki courses officially. So I did Reiki 1 to up until my Reiki Master level, which I'm now doing Reiki sessions. I also help Reiki practitioners to find clients and build their own practices. And I've also recently introduced, now I did debate about this and I've thought long and hard, and it feels like the right thing is Kundalini preparation program. Well, it's a program to help people activate their Kundalini, but in a really safe way to make sure that they have the support that they need and that their mental health's in the right place, because it is not easy. It is not easy at all. And you need to be prepared for that if it's something that you are willing and want to go through. Because once your Kundalini rises, there isn't any going back. I mean, once you get to a certain stage, you can try to integrate back into day to day, but things become so intolerable that you find it hard to go back into like the same careers or the same type of relationships and things like that. So my program that I'm doing is through application only, and I'm being really careful about who I invite onto that, to make sure that they're in the right place, the right mindset, and their reasonings are in the right place as well. Um, but that's through Reiki, so it's to do with opening up the three diamonds, so your heart, and your third eye, and then transmuting the Kundalini energy as well. So I think that some people say that, oh, it's not Reiki. Like when I first could channel energy, they were like, oh, it's not Reiki. If you haven't done the courses, it's not Reiki. But after I did get Reiki attuned officially, they felt the same. But I'll go into that in another video about the difference between Kundalini energy and Reiki energy and what my thoughts are and where the source of the energy is coming from. But yeah, so that's my story about how it Kundalini awoke within me, and I'll go into more detail in other videos about like what it felt like, what to expect, or if you're going through it too, what you can do, things like that. And also sometimes I'll sprinkle in some information about Reiki too if you're interested. Okay, well, thank you for watching my first video that I've uploaded, and yeah, feel free to say hi. Have a great day.